looking at the Facebook comments, so anybody that's on there, please come on and say hello. Oh, this is us. It's a bit upside down. Hold on a minute, I can see you guys on there. Hello Lee, Lorraine. How are you doing? Right there. We're back. It's a bit delayed, but we're on. Guys, say hello if you can see me and hear me. I'm reading the Facebook comments. While we're just waiting for other people to join. Hello Philip, how are you? Lovely to see you. While we're just waiting for people to join, I hope you're all going to the Figaro 25th and 30th, I'm 5 years behind, the 30th anniversary next month, so on the 27th. If you haven't, I'm not sure if there's any tickets left, but you can have a look. There might be on the Figaro Owners Club, or search on our website. There's some blogs about it. But it would definitely be cool to see you. I've got amazing demonstrations to show you, some really cool bits of parts of cars, parts of Figaros that you will have never ever seen before. And there's a dinner dance, so hopefully if you're going, I will see you at the dinner dance. I'll just give it a minute for any other people to come on. Lorraine says hello. Amanda, hi Amanda, you booked a session with us, so we're going to email you a time. We are. Mark says new look. Thanks Mark, I'm not sure what bit, but yeah. Thank you. Right, so let's put this down, and I think there's some of you guys here. I'll leave that so I can see the comments. So basically, if you just arrived through Facebook, then or you picked this up through our email newsletters that we've sent out to you, you'll know that today is called the Silent Engine Killer, and that's because not only this summer, but every summer we see so many people and hear from so many people that have got damaged engines and, you know, loads of problems caused by water leaks and overheating. And what tends to happen is those things get either missed or not picked up, and then people end up having to put new engines in, or often, as with a woman that I spoke to this week, she's done it multiple times. So she'll start to repair the engine, repair it again, repair it again, repair it again, and this gets into many, many thousands. But there's some quite simple ways that you can prevent that and make sure that you keep your Figaro on the road. So, just to give you a bit of a technical piece, hopefully you guys can see it here. Just write in the comments if you can't see what's going on. But basically, this is a Figaro engine, so this is the piece that would normally, you see the little red cover on the top with Nissan on. And the way that these engines are designed is they have this little chamber here that I'm poking my finger in, and this is called a water jacket. And this water jacket basically cools the pistons. These are the pistons, they go up and down super fast in there, and that's how you get that massive power as you drive up the road in your Figaro. But what happens is the car leaks water from one place or another, the water jacket stops working, the pistons stop cooling, and then you get damage like this. So this is where this piston's got too hot, all of this stuff is stuck together, and you can see that should be round, a piece is chipped off it, and that's it. That engine's finished now. It's potentially repairable, but it's going to be thousands of pounds basically to end up redoing that. So the best way is prevention rather than cure. So let's have a look at the engine, and I'll go through a couple of the bits on there. And while we're running, guys, just feel free to post any comments. Tom Brake says, I know about this all too well. I know you do. Sorry, Tom. I know you've had those problems with your car, but lovely to see you on this live today. So, as I said, the point is that you've got to keep the water in the engine, and you've got to keep the water circulating. That's the principle of the way that it all works. So, the bits that can fail typically are the radiator. So this is the radiator that you can see at the front, sits at the front of the car. The mass of the water sits in there, air cools through the front, and what happens is that cools. Now, in terms of checking it, it's just a case of taking the lid off, the cap, which is this cap, unscrewing it. Now this one's drained, but inside there you want to see water. So on this one, for example, just have a look. You can see the fins in the top, that's where it's drained. This is an example Sorry about that, Facebook. This is an example of one that's off the car. So you can see this is an original radiator. It's copper in the top, copper in the bottom, and some fins across the front of it. And then, like I said, because you can probably see it better in the light, when you look at yours on the car with the lid off, you want to be able to not see the fins in there. It's too low if you can see those little fins. Also, you want to make sure that you've got some water topped up in this expansion tank as well, because that's the water that basically, when there's not enough in the system or too much, it will just push it through into there. So you need to check those bits as well. Now, while we've got this radiator out, I'll just show you what happens. So this is a typical Figaro original radiator. It's 30 years old, and you can see, get my pen, this is just, there's nothing left of it, and this is how a lot of the radiators are. And the thing is, as these fins fall away, the problem that you get is it doesn't cool, because the water's meant to be in here and these bits are channeling the air through it and making it cool. So one, you've got the chance that this could leak, it could get a crack around here or around here, and two, it might just not be cooling properly. So that's a really big one to check, because if the radiator's not working properly, we're pretty much guaranteed that the system is going to fail. And especially depending on where you guys are watching from at the moment, depending where you are in the world, even in the UK at the moment, the temperatures are pretty hot. I even noticed when I was driving a Figaro at the weekend, even with all the upgraded parts, they still run quite hot, because it is inherently quite a warm running engine. In terms of the radiator, if that fails, what you can do is you can rebuild them to the original spec, but we also do one which is an uprated spec, and basically it just means that it's thicker across the top, made of aluminium, so it disperses the heat much faster, and it also has a slimline fan on the back of it. You can probably only just see it, but if you look down at this one, you can see it's got a big bulky fan on the back, which isn't really that efficient. It also has two different running speeds, and those speeds can go wrong. You've got relays on either side of the car to control the speed of that fan, so there's a few variables, a few bits that go wrong there. So the first point is definitely to check it, and then the second point is if there is something wrong with it, either to renew it or you can replace it with one of our aluminium ones. Let me just see if there's any questions while we're going. Do post questions, guys, and I'll just pick them up every now and again. Philip says he's got that radiator and he's happy. That's great, Philip, I'm glad to hear it. Tom says it gets hot on the motorway too, normally he has the heaters on. Yeah, I mean, it does let a little bit of heat out when you have the heaters on, but yeah, generally you want to hope that it's not too hot while you're on there. So the next point that we can check, which is definitely part of just holding the water in, so the radiator is obviously part of cooling it, just keeping the water in so it's sealed so you don't lose any, is the hoses. Now you've got a lot of hoses on the car. They run the water all the way around through that little jacket in the engine, back out into the heat matrix, which, like as Tom just said, that's the area that lets heat into the car, so your heaters will work. So you've got hot water that runs underneath the dash, back out again, and then into the other side of the radiator to be cooled, and then to all run back round the system again. So one of the main points that starts to fail is the hoses, and we're going to demonstrate. Matt, my incredibly talented colleague, is going to show us changing one of the hoses. So there's a number, isn't there, Matt, on the car? There's lots of hoses on the car. Yeah. If you guys come over to the bench a second, we've got some of them laying over here. These are all the hoses basically, so we're not going to change them all for you today, but we'll show you one to give you an idea on how it works. Now, this is an original hose, and you probably can't hear it, but you probably hear it by my mic. But basically, they turn crunchy and old, don't they, Matt? Yeah. They completely start to rot away, the rubber perishes over the years, and then they split, and it either dumps all the water or just a little bit of the water. And so what we do, because you can't buy them all in rubber, and also silicone that we produce them in is a lot better quality, lasts a lot longer is we reproduce them in this silicone, so it can get hotter, it's more durable, it lasts a lot longer. It's just a really good upgrade no matter what the temperature. There's quite a few to change, isn't there? So Matt's going to just change the top hose and or start to change it and just show you guys how that works. So this is the remainder of an old one. Do you want to start showing the guys how we do that on the car? If you want to show us what you're doing, Matt, and I can just explain to people as we go, and these guys can well, there's 40 of you guys on today. Lovely to see you all. I wondered if you'd all be at work now that lockdown's over, because the last one of these that we did was in the lockdown, so it was a bit yeah, everybody was at home with not so much to do. Bill Howe, hello, how are you doing? Amanda, how are you? Barbara Jenkinson. I think it's essential that you mention the most important, that it's most important to fill the system with coolant. Barbara, that is right, I'll pick it up in a minute, thank you for mentioning. So yeah, Matt's just doing the top hose here, so we'll just give you an idea of how to do this, because I know lots of you guys all around the world, you buy these parts from us. We've got guides on the website, but if anyone's got any questions while we're demonstrating, we can show you guys. We'd be more than happy to show you guys now.
Robert Turrell's got a question.
Yes, Robert,
his radiator cap is hissing. Is this a problem?
Yes. So basically, it means that this rubber is probably starting to perish around here. Either that, or the system's just starting to break down, isn't it? So either the head gasket's starting to go, because although this system's got water in it, shouldn't really have pressure in it, not a massive amount anyway.
There's still some pressure though.
Yeah,
built up,
yeah.
There shouldn't be a lot of pressure.
What do you think, Matt? Do you think it's likely to be, most likely to be the radiator cap, or?
Could be the cap, could be the head gasket, but head gasket is like last thing we checked, right?
Yeah,
I will start checking the cap.
So look for this rubber here. You see that, guys? So if you start by making sure that this rubber here hasn't perished, that would be the best place to start. If it keeps blowing them when you put a new cap on, you might already have a little bit of that problem, I'm afraid to say. So Matt, what's the trickiest thing about doing these silicone hoses?
It's tricky to remove them first. So normally they stuck because sometimes they haven't been touched for like 30 years.
Yeah. And you said sometimes you cut them?
Yes. So most of the time I just take the clip off, slide it off, and just cut along here. So it just makes it easier to just spin it and it comes off. I do mostly with all of them. So then we fit a new one.
Yeah.
Always need to make sure the surface is nice and clean, and especially when the car is running on water, it might be just corroded here, and sometimes those pipes need replacing.
So that's a good point, isn't it? And Barbara picked that up a second ago. If you're running the system and you're not putting enough antifreeze in it, it's not only to stop it freezing, it's to stop it rusting, isn't it? And you were saying that you find lots of them where all these bits are just falling away and it's all breaking away, and then you've got more expense. So that's the value in just doing your basic servicing and keeping those bits up to date, isn't it?
Carl Holmes has a question.
Yeah, Carl,
if you fill the top-up bottle to the brim, will it do any damage?
Matt, you're an expert on this,
No, if there's too much, it will just
it's got an overflow,
There's overflow here, hole here, so if it's too much, it will just leak. But yeah, we need to make sure that there's enough coolant in here. There's a minimum, maximum on the back of it. So we need to make sure that before every journey we should check the coolant. It's very important.
Yeah, exactly. And both, isn't it, Matt? You want to make sure you've got water in there and in there. Yeah. Sometimes we see people and the car's overheated and it's failing, and they check the expansion tank, see that there's a little bit left in the bottom, and just keep driving, but it's actually, got none left in the radiator at that stage. So you do need to be really careful of that. So what are the best tips you can give for putting the hoses on once you've got the other ones off?
So the best tip is a lot of patience, because some of them are really tricky to get to, especially the one that's on the back of the inlet manifold. The easiest way to do it is unfortunately on the ramp, or you have to go on with the car. So we're going to do the easiest one, to be honest.
So on that, you mentioned that you don't tighten them up too much. What would you say to the guys so they know to get it just right?
So what I do, obviously I use the ratchet, but you really want to use probably the screwdriver to just not over tighten it, because original radiator is made of like there's a thin, very thin pipe here. So what happens is when someone over tightens the clip, it just squashes the.
So what Matt's meaning there, guys, just bring the camera around. This pipe here can get crushed. So if you use something too hefty and you do the new clamp up too much, you'll crush this pipe. And you see how this one's been crushed a little and it's just off centre there. That's going to mean that there's much more chance of that leaking when the system gets a slight amount of pressure or it's a really hot day or something like that, doesn't it? Yeah. So you do need to watch that.
Same with the matrix hoses for
Yeah.
original pipes are plastic, to be fair as well.
So let's just pick up on that while Matt's just tightening up that. So guys, the hoses that we were talking about on at the back, so the system runs all the way around and then it runs inside the car and back out. And when it runs inside the car, it runs into something like this, which is the heater matrix. Heater matrix sits there in the middle of the dash, and that's how, as Tom said at the beginning, that's how you get the heat, because this gets warm, air blows through it, you get hot air through the dash. Now, the problem with fitting hoses, isn't it, Matt, is that these are plastic.
Yeah.
So original ones are plastic, and this one's a great example that you can see it's just snapped clean off. So that should look like that. So basically, when the hoses come off, this is one of the matrix hoses, the old one has come off here, and it's just snapped that off, and someone's leaned down and tried to yank it off. So Matt, what do you do there? Do you cut them off?
We cut them on the top along the pipe.
So when you're taking the original hose off, what Matt's saying is you'd use like a Stanley blade. This would be sleeved all the way down to here, slice through it, and then pull it off, and then just put these on really gently. When we reproduce the heater matrix, we make them from copper. And that way you've got less chance of breaking them, because broken heater matrix is something that's really common, isn't it?
Yeah.
We find it a lot. The heater matrix, a bit like the radiator, can leak. It doesn't always just crack at the end, and if to crack at the pipe. And if that's the case, you get wet, don't you? Passenger foot weld by the passenger's right foot would get damp down by the centre console. And the best way to check if it is the heater matrix is just get a piece of white tissue and touch that on it, because as long as you've got antifreeze in the car, which hopefully you will have, that colour will be in the tissue, whereas if there's some type of leak from rainwater or something like that, there won't be any colour. So that is hoses, and if you needed details on any bits of those, any specific bits on those hoses, let us know. What other bits have we got? I think the water pump, haven't we, is quite common. Just check your comments again, guys. Yeah, Barbara says that she's lived in southern Spain and she really needs to use those bits. Tony says, what's the thought on Evans waterless coolant? Matt, we don't use that, do we?
What one?
The waterless. They do the waterless coolant.
I think it's used on modern cars.
Yeah, I mean it is a classic one, but generally we find that it's more important to have the system sealed, and we use red, don't we? We were just talking about this before we did the live, so we use a red antifreeze. They often come with green in, but the most important thing is just don't mix the antifreeze together. But if you're fitting a set of these hoses or any of these parts, you're going to be draining the system anyway, so you're going to eliminate the chance of that. Right, so the next point that can leak is the water pump. So all this water that's flowing around the system that we've been talking about today gets pumped around, as otherwise it would just stay in one place. Now it gets pumped from here on the edge of the engine, and just to show you, so here's the engine again out the car. Come and have a look. So this is where the water pump fits. This is a new water pump, fits on the side of the engine here, and that spinning basically pumps the water, and that gets us around our system. Now that is definitely a point that you need to check. Typically it's not that common for these to snap or for the fins to break off, but what does happen is they start to leak, or they just get tired and start to seize up and not work very well. So you can just about look down the edge of the engine there and see if there's a leak from there. And if you've got a troublesome leak that you can't really seem to get rid of, then it's worth looking at that. So you'd run the car and look for the leaks and see, and there's a chance it could be that. In which case you definitely need a new water pump. You wouldn't use the same one again, and then you just seal that on. If you get one from us, it will come with the gaskets and all the bits that you need to do it, and then you can seal that back on. That's probably the most fiddly part of a water leak, as long as you don't have major damage. The most fiddly part of prevention, just because you have to take the cam belt off to do it. So it is a bit more of a technical job, but if you're doing that, just give us a call and we can definitely give you some advice on doing it. Right, I'm just going to see if you guys have got any other comments.
Another question from Carl.
Yes, Carl, hi, hello mate.
Have you got to check the heater matrix because of a leak in the passenger footwell? Do you have to remove the dashboard?
No. To check. Oh, sorry. Yeah, as Matt said, yes to change the matrix, but not to check it. I'll show you. Just come round to this side. If you two with the cameras come from here, because you'll need to see down there, Anders. And I'll lean across and just point out what they need to be checking. So basically, if the matrix leaks, the matrix is behind there, but the leak will happen about here where my hand is. So typically your engine will overheat from time to time. Hopefully it won't cause any damage, or you'll check it and you'll realise that you've lost water. You won't find a leak under the car, and you'll look in here, and on this piece of carpet it will be wet. And there's loads of ways, like little ways that you can check that it's antifreeze rather than water. People sometimes taste it, because you can taste that it's antifreeze rather than water. Yeah, but that's a bit of an old mechanics trick. I don't know if I'd recommend that. The colour of it, you can definitely check the colour, because it will be green or pink or blue, but it won't be the colour of rainwater. And that's about it. I mean, you can also pump the system up, can't you, Matt? You can pressure test the system. Have we got one? Do you want to show the guys how we do it? So one way, if you've got a persistent leak and you just cannot get to the bottom of it, is to actually inflate the system. So it is as simple as it looks. It's like a bicycle pump that fits onto the system. And you can buy these kits anywhere. But this is what we would do. So if this car, which it hasn't, but if this car was having a head gasket at the end, we'd probably pressure test it. So Matt would put that hose on. And then pump the system up, and then what we're looking for, if you guys zoom in, you can see it's got a gauge there with pressure on it, so that shows that this system's good. So if he left it for too long, it would go down, or he'd pump that up and water would squirt out somewhere.
Well, you can pump it and actually look at it. If you suspect some leaks, you can actually see if it's leaking somewhere.
Yeah, it's a really helpful way to do it. If you can't, I mean, typically a lot of the time what happens is something will go and it'll absolutely pour out everywhere, it'll pour out everywhere. Sorry, I'm reading the comments at the same time. But this is a good way to check it if you want to double check, or if you've taken the engine apart or done all the hoses or something like that. Paul Green, hi Paul, said I fitted a new radiator, it worked well, as it found a weak point in the original matrix causing wet carpets. Paul, that is a great point and definitely worth saying. So What can potentially happen, which is worth keeping an eye out for, is that your system will have small leaks here and there because you've got 30-year-old hoses, 30-year-old radiator, 30-year-old matrix, and little bits of pressure and water have been escaping somewhere. You put on a really decent set of hoses or something like that, and it will seal the system, and one of the other points will start to fail. So it's really good to change it all at the same time. I'll tell you about an offer that we're doing on these parts as a group in a second. Carter says, hey, my Fig has a small diameter hose just to the left of the hose you just changed. It is long. Where does it go to the turbo? So yeah, I think you're talking about this, Carter. Yeah, so it does. It comes off and then goes into the turbo, and it cools that as well because the engine is water cooled, and the turbo is also water cooled as well. So keep posting the questions, guys, any other bits you've got. But in terms of those parts, we've got a code for you. So we've got an offer at the moment that if you want to change all of these parts on your car, we do a deal at the moment where you can get the radiator, all of the hoses, a new radiator cap, and a thermostat. So the thermostat basically a fan switch to make sure the fan is cutting in at the right point. And we've got 60 quid off those bits at the moment. We'll post the code for you in the comments inside, or do you post it in the title?
Should be in the title.
Okay, cool. I think we've got it. The code is KeepCool21, but we'll post those bits for you. And if you want those bits, they are well worth it because an engine is much more expensive. And if you need any advice on how to fit them or anything like that, you can give us a shout. Let me just grab the comments again and see. Because while we're here, guys, if you have any more questions at all, yes, I see it in the comments. You're more than welcome to keep asking while we're all here. We've got me and we've got Matt on hand. Michael says, so the silicon top hose comes in two parts and you're reusing the coupling. Yeah, that's right. The coupling piece in the middle he would reuse. The clamps and the hoses would all be replaced as new. Pat, hi Pat, how are you? He says waterless coolant or antifreeze. We use antifreeze and water and we find that that's fine. We always have done, and it's never caused us any problems at all. Fabian says the Figs run hot for 2 years. I changed the thermostat and housing and it changed my life. It runs better at a lower temperature. That is right. So the thermostat in the system, as the system goes around, the thermostat opens up, and that's when it lets the rest of the water run around the system. So you need to make sure your thermostat is working as well, and the thermostat is not the same as a micro because this is a hotter running engine. So give us a shout if you have any questions on that. The thermostat is down in there, and you could change that at the same time as changing the hoses. Lorraine says, my carpet in the driver's side footwell was soaking wet the other day. The car was sloped downwards and we had rain. Could this be the roof channels or would it be the engine? Lorraine, as I said, the best check for that is get a piece of white tissue of some type, dip it in the water, and you'll see if it's browny, rainy colour, or if it's got a tinge of green or blue in it, then you'll know that it's that. And it will always, it's 100% of the time it's the left-hand side. It never comes out in the driver's side, does it?
I've seen them before, actually.
Okay, but generally it's the left, isn't it? Yeah. So, but it's always around that console in the middle, because the matrix is literally there, right there. Two hoses are there, go into it, so it will pour down the middle, but it goes generally to the left side of the car. Keep putting comments on, guys, and I'll keep answering as long as you guys want to stay on. So like I said, we put this in the comments, KeepCool21, you can use it on our website. You can ring us if you want any technical advice on any of the fitting. And if you didn't get that code and the notifications to this in your in an email, then do give us a shout, because then do sign up at the top of this page. I'm pretty sure it's on the Facebook page, because we send out lots of offers and lots of these how-to guides by email if you're an owner. George, hello George, how are you doing? George from New York, nice to see you. parts department in the US because we need one. There are a lot of Figaros. I know a lot of our stuff gets sent over to the US, and we were pretty close at the start of last year to opening somewhere, but then just with COVID and the travel restrictions and things like that, it's sort of on hold at the moment. But we would love to do it. So if you can help us at all with that, George, we would definitely are still very keen to get something going in your part of the world. Amanda says, is the kit on the website? Yeah, it's on the website.
It's called the Ultimate Cooling Package.
It's called the Ultimate Cooling Package, Amanda, so you can find it on there under the Ultimate Cooling Package, and Keep Cool 21 at checkout to get the £60 discount. I'll just give it a second, see if you guys have got anything else you want to ask me about. Olivier, hi Olivier, how are you? Olivier says, I recommend, he bought the kit, he cannot recommend it enough. Thanks Olivier, that's really nice of you. I know you drive your car into Europe quite a bit when it's hot, and so definitely it helps. I mean, the difference that these radiators do make is immense, because one, it increases the water capacity. Two, the amount of water cooling is actually improved, the dissipation, because it's made from a completely different, more modern material. The fan is better, so for anywhere really it's better. But obviously at this time of year it's much more extreme. Right guys, any more for any more? So just a final reminder, hopefully I'm going to see you guys next month, or the end of this month, at the Figaro 30th. I really hope I am. And I hope we get to dance as well, because there's going to be a dinner dance, so I'm looking forward to that. Michael says, cheers, oh, it's disappeared. Cheers from Massachusetts. The temp gauge always reads between the small marks close to the base of the needle. I've been told that's correct and true. And will your new radiator make the engine run cooler? So yeah, it will cool the water better, so it will make everything run cooler. Yours sounds like it runs at the right temperature, but yes, this will definitely improve it. And like I said at the beginning, it's a prevention thing. You know, if you wait until the car has had a leak or overheated, then generally you're into the damage that's on there. Philip, hi mate. Nothing to do with cooling, but do the bonnet hinges that are attached to the car have any movement built in, as I need to raise the bonnet? Yeah, do you know what? They do a bit, but they're a real pain to move about. It's just a case of fiddling with them really. They will move a little bit, and it's about getting the movement between these ones, a little tiny bit of movement at the front, and then hopefully a little bit of movement on the rubber stoppers as well. If we're having trouble, we normally replace the rubber stoppers at the same time, so you can wind those out. Pat says, do we have a home fit service? Sorry mate, we don't. But pardon? Yeah.
Live close.
I think
you said.
You're in Cornwall, aren't you, Pat? I think. We do a collection service on our truck. Leads into our truck. So we do collect from all over the country every day. Jesse, thank you and cheers from Austin. How are you doing? I miss Austin, you know. I was out there quite a bit last year, so I do really miss it. I don't know when I'm going to be able to travel again. Got my new radiator in the mail. Thanks, Neil. Lorraine, great watch. Fabian, thank you from Spain. Oh, you guys are all over. Cool. Alright guys, I'm going to let you go. Kev, how are you doing? Kevin, yes. Kevin, the organiser. Kev, I was just talking a couple of minutes ago about the event and saying that hopefully we'll see loads of these guys here in 3 weeks and 2 days, so we're really excited. Yeah, we really can't wait to see you all, and I know Kevin would echo that as well. Yes, we will send a video and a link, definitely. Excellent. Right guys, if you want to follow up, oh no, one more question. Keep going.
Can you get the hoses in different colours?
Yes, you can actually. I didn't even mention that.
Not on the offer though.
Not on the offer. On the special offer with this deal, they're just black ones. But yeah, we've done reds and pinks. And
Yellow, green, pink, red, orange, all sorts.
yellow, green, pink, red, orange. Yeah, I think we can do anything to them. I've got a feeling we might even be able to print them, but I'm not sure. But yeah, if you want your car to look pimped up, focus that up, definitely. Right guys, anyway, have a lovely end of your Thursday, and I'll hopefully see you in person in a couple of weeks. Peace and love. Have a lovely day.